The senator from Vermont.
Madam President, we'll have before us a substitute amendment identical to H.R. 5035, which we'll be voting on today. H.R. 5035 is the House-passed continuing resolution, except that the provision raising the debt ceiling has been removed because Republicans continue to block raising the debt ceiling. But the stopgap measure will keep the government funded through December 3rd. It provides $28 billion to help states that have been ravaged by hurricanes and wildfires. It provides critical assistance to Afghan refugees who have fled the Taliban in the wake of the U.S. Withdrawal from Afghanistan. Many of those refugees have worked with American forces and helped us. So I urge all members to vote for it. But I agree with the majority leader that it's shameful that we can't reach agreement today to raise the debt ceiling and protect the full faith and credit of the United States. If Republicans don't want to vote to protect the full faith and credit of the United States, if the Republicans don't want to vote for the money that pays for the programs that they had supported under Donald Trump, well, then stand out of the way and Democrats can raise the debt ceiling. You know, over and over, the last 2 days, we've heard from members on the other side of the aisle speak about the importance of passing a continuing resolution that contained disaster relief to help hurricane-ravaged states like Louisiana and Texas. They're pleading for help. Well, we're about to pass a CR that provides that help. I've always taken the position that if there's a disaster in any state, that we should all come together to provide assistance because we're the United States of America. It's not just one state, whether it's my state of Vermont or Texas or any other state, we can provide the assistance. But, well, they may go home and say, hey, we voted to get money in disaster relief for our hurricane-ravaged states. Somebody's going to say, well, wait a minute. Where's the money come from to help recover and rebuild if the U.S. Treasury is literally out of money? In other words, they have a position where they can vote for something to be popular back home, and it's kind of like the checks in the mail. We're not going to give you any money for it, but boy, we're going to speak about how important it is to help you. Now, many senators here today want to provide $1 billion to fund Israel's so-called Iron Dome, even though Israel has not spent the money we've already given them. Well, we'll pass a bill that'll do just that. But if there's no money in the U.S. Treasury to pay the bills, it's nothing but empty promise to a close ally. We're voting on a blank check. According to the Treasury Department, we're going to reach the debt ceiling in 18 days. Now, I say that because we ought to know what we're not voting on. What we're not voting on. As the majority leader pointed out, we're not voting on the debt ceiling. We can say, oh, we're helping hurricane-ravaged areas. Oh, we're making others happy for things we vote for. But we're not voting for the money. And if we don't raise the debt ceiling, well, once that happens, we run out of money to pay our men and women in uniform. We all support our men and women in uniform. We're just not going to put the money to pay them. We can't send out Social Security checks. Find a senator in this place that would say they're against Social Security, but to put the money in for it, they're not ready to do that. Just saying. Oh, we all support our veterans. Of course we do. We're just not going to put the money in to support them. And for the first time in history, the U.S. will default on its debts. The economy would take such a hit, it'd take years to recover. Millions of people would be out of work, bills will not be paid. Watch the stock market go down faster than we've ever seen, and millions of Americans' lifetime savings are going to be at risk. Oh, we're for all those Americans. You're on your own. Now, the Republican Party is playing political games with the U.S. economy and with people's livelihoods, and it's shameful. Senator McConnell said he would not provide a single Republican vote to raise the debt ceiling. Interesting, because most of this debt was incurred under a Republican president and a Republican-controlled Senate. But as irresponsible as it is for the Republican leader to say we won't vote to pay for the debt that we incurred, we on the Democratic side are prepared to show what leadership looks like, do it all on their own. We're willing to pass this with Democratic votes. But the Republicans continue to filibuster. So if we don't resolve the debt issue in the coming days, make no mistake where the blame lies. Squarely at the feet of the Senate Republicans. So when we go back and say all these wonderful things we've done for you in the continuing resolution, but we're not going to pay for it, we need to pass the CR today, of course, to avert a government shutdown tomorrow. And the government shutdown, as we know from those in the last administration, wastes billions, accomplishes nothing. But it's also essential not only to pass the continuing resolution, but to unite and pass a debt limit extension. There's not going to be any money in the Treasury. No money to pay for the funding of this bill for American families, for the elderly, for our troops. Now, with final passage, prior to final passage, we're going to have a series of 3 amendment votes. With only 13 hours before the government's set to shut down, 13 hours and a few minutes, any one of these amendments could imperil the continuing resolution. They're controversial. They could complicate House passage. So I would urge a no vote on all 3 amendments and an aye vote on final passage. Any one of the things that are in those 3 amendments, bring them up as legislation somewhere else, but don't shut down the government because you didn't get your political amendment through. And with that, Madam President, I will yield the floor, and before I do, I will call up Amendment 3830.